First of all, hello, welcome to this webinar. I hope you can all see the screen now. Hopefully, you can all see the slides. We'll try to do this a little bit interactive, and please feel free to send comments through the webinar chat. You can see that you have access to the chat option in the options panel. So please, at any point, if you want to, you can send us any message or any comment. We would be very happy to discuss whatever is it that you are sending us. I'm saying that this because I would very much like this to be an interactive webinar, as opposed to just us delivering information to you. So, anyways, I will now start, and I'd say welcome again. My name is Rodrigo Serna. I am in charge of this session today because I am the professor in charge of the Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering Master's Program. But I'm not alone. I'm not on my own today. I have also Professor Marjatta Louhi-Kultanen with us today, who he has been helping with the planning of this program.
Good afternoon, everyone.
We also have two very special guests we have today with us that will also share their experience as students on chemical engineering and metallurgical engineering. So we have Jere Vanska and we have Roshi Dahal today with us. They will have some time later on to talk about their own experiences. So, anyways, welcome to Aalto University. So, what is it that we will be talking about in today's webinar? We will try to keep things relatively straightforward. I have some slides where I will be talking about Aalto in general, as I am aware that some of you may not be familiar with our university. So I will be talking a little bit about Aalto University, a little bit about Finland, in case you are contacting us from somewhere else in the world. And then we will start talking about the Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering program. What is it that we are teaching? What is the Chemical and Engineering program about? So, what is Aalto University? And well, let's start a little bit with the history of Aalto University. Aalto University was officially established not that long ago. It was originally established only in 2010, but that doesn't mean that it is really a very young university in the strictly speaking. Aalto University is actually the merger of three leading universities in Finland, in the Helsinki metropolitan area. So these three universities were the Helsinki University of Technology, which was established in 1849, the University of Art and Design in Helsinki, which was established in 1871, and the Helsinki School of Economics, which was established in 1911. So this means that we have a long tradition of many disciplines of technology, arts, design, and economics that were brought together in the spirit of multidisciplinarity to create Aalto University. This was a strategic change to the way in which higher education is provided in Finland, and it has resulted in quite a series of good achievements, right, of positive achievements. So we can see here that we have achieved international recognition. So according to the Shanghai rankings. We are position 9 of all young universities globally. We have 23rd position in multidisciplinary and collaborative research according to the World University Research. We are one of the most international universities in the world. This is really nice. Actually, as you can tell, the reason why we are carrying out this webinar in English is because we have English education here, and we are trying to promote the internationality here in Aalto. We understand the benefits of a multicultural environment, and we are also we were ranked 47th in an item called Advancing Responsible Consumption and Production. And I think this is also very important because part of what has defined Aalto University's activities, both in teaching and research, has been the search of more sustainable ways of producing and consuming. So creating a better way of living. So this is what we are striving to. So that's why we say this is let's say the philosophy of the university, the general motivation of Aalto, right? So we strive at being a multidisciplinary community, and we always say that we are trying to be bold thinkers, thinking outside of the box, and trying to find places where science and art meet technology and business. So this may sound like a motto only, but it really is what we are trying to do. We're trying to find out new ways of thinking by bringing these different disciplines together. What does Aalto campus look like? Well, we have many things that we can be proud about. We are always having new facilities for studies. We have, of course, the library. We have laboratory hubs, studios, workshops, and so on. We have a very strong student union. So if you join the university, Aalto University, you will have access to facilities from student unions. And there's, of course, all sorts of ranges of services here in campus, right? This has slowly become a very active hub where you can have very easy access to, shopping centers, restaurants nearby. And we are very well connected to Helsinki city center. So we are not in the center of Helsinki, but it doesn't feel like we aren't, because we have very good connections to through the metro station and several bus lines. And there is a speed tram line that actually was just inaugurated last weekend. So it is absolutely fantastic to be around here. It's a very lively place. So I think that I could talk about how is it like to be in Aalto, but I think that I will perhaps not go into the details here because I have my own perspective as professor, and I think that this is part of what our students or the student experience that will be shared with you. But well, Finland is in general considered a world leader in education. Our community is very friendly, and unlike many other places, the Finnish culture has a very low hierarchy. That means that we can very easily speak with our superiors. We can very easily approach, as students, you can very easily approach professors, teachers, researchers. We don't have such a high hierarchical distances here. Finland is always considered high in terms of safety and quality of life and happiness. Well, depending on who you ask, but according to the last surveys, Finland has been considered the happiest country in the world several years in a row. So that tells us something. And I mean, as an international community, Aalto is a place where you can very easily get by using English as a language. And well, you will find that at least in the metropolitan area, speaking English is not a big issue either. Of course, we want to encourage everyone to learn some Finnish, but at least as you are entering Aalto's community, it should be quite okay. I think that this is in a nutshell what Aalto is about, what could expect you from life in Finland. There's a lot of rankings that I could be citing here, but I think that the message is clear. Finland is a very nice place to live. You have many positive aspects around, and of course, Aalto University is a place where you can where we very much like hosting international students, but of course also Finnish students are of course. I'm not trying to say that we are not encouraging Finnish students. We also are very like Aalto University campus. The area and the university is a very suitable place for your studies. Okay, that was in general. So now let's talk a little bit about the chemical and metallurgical engineering master's program in a little bit in detail. And as I said, I want to display that we probably start hearing from you through the chat. So don't worry, you don't need we don't need to hear you speaking. You can always send messages in the chat. So if you want, I would actually like to ask you a very simple question. I know you are here in this webinar because you are interested in the topic. Perhaps you have heard chemical and metallurgical engineering, or chemical engineering, metallurgical engineering. But I would actually be interested in hearing from you, if you can write down. So what is it that you think when you hear about the word engineering? Or what is it that you think of when you hear chemical engineering or metallurgical engineering? Could you give one or two write down one or two keywords about this? What do you think? What is it that strikes your mind when you think about engineering? I'll let you type your messages down there. I take it you can type messages, right? In the chat. Right there in the chat, go to the chat box and just write. Let us know, what do you think when you hear engineering? What are the words that you associate with it? Okay. I have already 1 point. Okay. Thanks. Now some answers start appearing. Okay. I can now read a few of your comments here. One of them says, everything around us is engineering, which is fascinating. That is true. Everything around us, everything that has technology in it is engineering, right? Everything has to go through engineering processes. Then when I am asked about chemical engineering, this is another comment that someone has written. I immediately imagine scaling up the lab scale consumables to industrial scale. That is also true, right? It's about scaling up. It's about industry. That's what we always associate with engineering. Engineering is an activity, right? Engineering is the activity that allows us to have industry, right? To have to support the industrial practices. And yes, whatever we have around us, whatever products we use, whatever products we consume, at some point there had to be some engineering involved in it. So that is what engineering is about, right? It's about making things practical, and not only practical, but also practical at larger industrial scales. So this brings me to why would you think, why would you consider studying chemical engineering or metallurgical engineering? Well, it turns out that the world needs chemicals. That's the truth. Just if you look around you, from the painting used to in the room you are sitting in, to the materials in your clothes, even to the, if you go to your bathroom and you read the ingredients in your soap, right? We are surrounded by all sorts of chemicals, and we are surrounded by all sorts of needs for raw materials to produce them. So the world needs these chemicals. And the reality is that only engineers know how to produce them. And only engineers know how to produce them in large scales, in scales that are sufficiently large to have an impact in the world, right? So we need to have the engineers to move technologies out of the lab. I am, of course, not saying that chemistry or the science, the chemical sciences are not relevant. Of course, you need to have this fundamental understanding of chemistry and these new chemical products or these new chemical reactions. But they become only relevant for the society once you're able to extract them from the lab and actually find ways to bring these new chemicals for the use of the product of the public in general, right? And that is the work of the engineers. So engineers are trained to learn how to scale up these processes, right? So we always talk about process engineers when we're talking about chemical processes or metallurgical processes. It's process engineering. And these kind of engineers, the engineers that we are educating in this program, are the ones that will be in charge of designing, of operating, of optimizing, and even managing these processes, right? And let's be clear, just because we are not, that's because we are thinking always big, it does not need, we are always limiting our activities to industrial plants. So we are capable of doing all of these activities, designing, operating, optimizing, and managing processes from laboratory to industrial plants. Chemical sciences, for instance, are interested on figuring out new chemical routes, but they are not so interested on what would be the optimal conditions on carrying something, the optimal conditions in terms of, for example, the economics surrounding it. So we are really in charge of taking this broad look on how are these principles going to be applied. Engineers are then the experts that apply these scientific principles to solve problems. So as engineers, we are training you to develop a creative mind. And this is really important also, because many times you are wondering, so how am I am interested on, for example, aspects like mathematics or chemistry or physics. But engineers are actually creative minds that bring these principles together and find how to solve real-world problems using these scientific principles. So, just a moment. This is moving. So, chemical and metallurgical engineering. This is our program, and this is the program that we are here presenting to you today. We are process engineers, so that's what defines us. That's why we can think of a program that has both chemical and metallurgical engineering together, because both of these areas of specialization has to do with process engineering. And this is something unique. We are actually the only program in Finland that is established in a way that allows you to learn the best of these two worlds, right? So you can specialize on either chemical or metallurgical engineering. We will be talking about that in a few moments when we discuss how the program is organized. But we are anyways trying to provide you at least some knowledge on both of these areas. So a very simple way of thinking about these two areas is, for example, chemical engineering is the engineering that treats, for example, from fossil fuels or sustainable biostocks and uses processes to transform them into high-value chemicals. That's chemical engineering. And metallurgical engineering looks into very specifically the metallic materials, right? It is very important for us to also understand that there is a lot of processing, a lot of chemistry, a lot of chemical changes involved between the extraction of minerals from mines or urban mines, recycling centers, all the way to turning them into refined metals. So metallurgical engineering is not, for example, metal forming or the production of pieces of metal with manufacturing, right? It is not about that. Metallurgical engineering really is process engineering, where we actually use a lot of chemistry, a lot of processes in order for us to produce these refined metallic products, and they are of high value, right? So we're always thinking of bringing things that have low value to high value. This is what the process engineers do. And it is really important for us to know about this and for us to understand that this is about not only having the right tools, but also developing a certain mindset. Because what process engineering gives you is a lot of transferable skills. What this means is that the details in which you are using your knowledge, or the specific industry in which you're applying your knowledge, that may be learned in practice. But this gives you a lot of career possibilities if you graduate from these kind of chemical engineering programs. I can, for example, share with you my own personal story. Typically, one would introduce themselves much earlier in the presentation, but I thought in this case it was relevant for me to give you a glimpse of what my career has looked like, so that you could see that as a chemical or metallurgical engineer, you have a lot of possibilities in your career, right? So, for instance, I graduated from my chemical engineering degree, and my first job right after graduation was as junior process engineer in a paper production company. This was a global production company called Smurfit Kappa. And there we were producing, I was in charge of checking out the production of a very large paper machine. After some time there, I then decided to go back and do research. So I started my doctoral studies. But my doctoral studies had nothing to do with my paper production experience. Actually, I was working on greenhouse gas captures using new types of materials. I was using nanoporous materials as ways to capture greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide in particular. So this was a different aspect of my career that I was able to do thanks to my chemical engineering background. After I received my doctoral degree, then I went back to industry, but this time I was team leader in research and development. And this was in the largest chemical company in the world, that's called BASF. And there I was actually working first in the area of catalysis technologies, chemical accelerators. And then I moved into the field of mineral processing. So as you can see, these are very diverse kind of backgrounds that I was able to work in, thanks to all these transferable skills that I learned during my chemical engineering career. And then in the end, well, I am here. I ended up at the moment as professor in mineral processing and recycling here in Aalto University. So you have many possibilities of careers in many industries that are very, I would say, they are very important for our society. And then also as careers, you will always find a very interesting job to work in. How does your learning paths then look like in this kind of program, right? I can give you an example of the learning paths in when I think of the mineral process engineering courses that we have here in Aalto University. I chose this learning path because this is the path that I teach. But for instance, what you do is that you need to become an engineer. And in order to become an engineer, you would need to know what is the most cost-effective process to transform minerals. And to know that, you will need to know, for instance, what is the right size of equipment and efficient conditions for the production of these materials. And to know that, you first need to start by knowing what you need to separate. So the properties of the materials, their physical chemical properties. This is your path to enlightenment when it comes to your engineering career. So this kind of learning paths is what you will find in our program. So first, starting from the fundamental aspects of your materials, then moving forward into learning what are the right type of equipment that you would need, then understanding what are the cost effectiveness processes or the relations, and then gaining experience, for example, through internship works or master's thesis. This is what our chemical and metallurgical engineering master's program look like. So as you can see, probably by now you have started to understand what is it that chemical and metallurgical engineers do, right? So we know that we are in charge of converting chemicals and metals into high value added products. So this can be other kind of chemicals, other refined metals, polymers, for instance, right? And we need to know how to do that in large scale through industrial practices. I think that one of the aspects that is very interesting about our program in particular is that we are always thinking about sustainability and circular economy by definition, right? So this is something that is also a strong driver for us. So throughout, well, I would say quite embedded in our programs, you will always find aspects of these two concepts, whether finding out well, let's call it the more responsible way in which we can produce the goods that will be required by industry, right? This is a list of what we call the intended learning outcomes, and this is maybe what actually reflects what we are trying to teach then in a very ordered manner, right? So basically apply engineering, natural science and mathematics, and solving problems, right? So this is what you are becoming. You're becoming problem solvers. We want you to learn how to design sustainable industrial scale processes. And to do this, you will learn to select and design these components of industry that are called unit operations and unit processes, right? So industrial processes, these are the building blocks of your industrial processes. And this is also what we are teaching you. We are always trying to teach you as well, as I mentioned, how to choose or how to drive the transition towards renewable and recyclable resources, understanding the criticality of raw materials, because we are in a time in history where we need to be very aware of these concepts of sustainability and circularity, and demonstrate critical thinking. This is always very important, right? So we need to be critical thinkers. We are, as I was telling you, we are as engineers trying to find out the best way to produce things, but we need to be very critical about the technologies available and how can we improve them. If you want to change the way in which things are done at the moment, well, you should change them from the inside. So this is an opportunity indeed. This is how our program looks like, how the structure of our program looks like. As I mentioned, we have two types of specialization, right? So chemical engineering or metallurgical engineering. But in general, this is how the program will look like. So the program studies, that's 20 credits. This means for those of you who are not familiar with the Aalto system, this means 4 courses that are mandatory for all the students in the program. And these include basic engineering tools that you will use in your specialization studies. And then you can choose a major. The major is then how we are calling whether you are becoming a specialist in chemical engineering or in metallurgical engineering. These major studies are 45 credits, so around nine courses, out of which you have some compulsory studies of the major and some specialization studies for the major. So there is also, besides this compulsory, there is some degree of flexibility for you to choose also which courses attract you the most. And then you will have the opportunity to have a master's thesis that is probably at the end of by the end of your second year in the program, when you have learned sufficient, when you have gained sufficient knowledge on the main topics. And we also give the opportunity for electives, which are about 25 credits. So I will now perhaps let my colleague, Professor Marjata Lohikultanen, to explain us a little bit about the chemical and process engineering major. So how does the specialization in chemical engineering look like, and what is it about? So please, Marjata, if you wish.
Oh yes, thank you, Rodrigo. So I would shortly also a little bit describe this major chemical and process engineering, and so we are focusing on this different unit operations, and this means in practice, for example, what kind of separation or purification methods could be selected for certain applications as a part of some wider processes. So how different unit operations can be integrated in different production processes, for example, and also not only the separation or purification methods, but in this major we are also focusing on unit processes. So if there are some chemical conversions, so this kind of topics can be studied in our major, in this major, and so, for example, in this major, chemical and process engineering, so here, for example, it's possible to somehow focus in your studies. There are certain areas, fields, which you could somehow concentrate on. So, and here you can see this structure of our courses. So as Rodrigo mentioned earlier, so there's programs, compulsory joint courses, and here you can see the names: chemical engineering tools, engineering principles of metallurgical processes, separation processes. And the separation processes, we focus on various unit operations, and in recycling technologies we are focusing on recycling, for example, of plastics and metals. So these are these compulsory courses, and then regarding our major, chemical and processing engineering major. So here you can see this compulsory courses, and these courses contain courses which cover, for example, modeling. We use quite a lot. Also, we in exercises and in assignments, we use process simulation tools. For example, mainly we use Aspen Plus process simulation tool, and also reaction engineering is also one of the core topics in this major, and also we are offering courses where you can practice how to design processes or plants of production for various production processes, and also in CPE, chemical and process engineering major, you can take certain hands-on courses, and so we have courses which it's possible to carry out some laboratory exercises, and also we have systems where it's possible to practice how to, for example, carry out, how to design, for example, process control system. So this kind of courses we have in this major. And polymer technology is one of the themes which are included in this major, and also how to develop processes, how to take into account process safety and risk management issues when designing processes or plants. And so in the chemical and process engineering major, so as you can see from this list, also process automation is one of the somehow the key topics also. So maybe this is shortly from our side regarding this major.
Thank you, Marjatta. I will be very brief on showing also the specialization on our metallurgy. So the name of the major is Sustainable Metallurgical Engineering, and here, on the other hand, the idea is that you would learn how to process metals, whether from primary sources, meaning from minerals extracted from mines, or from recycling centers, all the way to producing high purity materials. But I will not go into further details. I know that in the chat box you have been given the option to find more about the program, because I would really like now to let our special guests tell us a little bit about their experience, maybe in 5 minutes or so. What is it that what has been their experience in as students in this program? So please, Jere, if you wish.
Yeah, thank you, Rodrigo. So hi everyone, my name is Jere Venska. I was a master's student in Aalto University during 2020 and 2023. So, and as for background, I also studied my bachelor studies here, and I have my background in bachelor studies, I studied material science, metallurgy, product development, whatever you had in bachelor studies. So it was quite a colorful background from there. But then I got excited into this metallurgical engineering, and it basically was the versatility of the studies was really vast. We had a lot of project courses, many laboratories, also some excursions to the different companies of our own field, a lot of modeling and designing different processes. And I had the possibility to go do some exchange studies in Austria. We have this university there in Leoben. So I focused there into this more of like metal forming and a little bit of mining. So kind of getting into other fields also to explore a bit more. And maybe as for tips, what I found as a good ways to study. So I didn't only stay in the lecture hall, so I also got in quite actively into the student culture during my studies. So I was heavily involved in the student culture and student life. I was member of the student associations and student union, and I was doing a lot of volunteering there. So I got good like social skills there and learn how to do projects together and how to cooperate with different people. You also learn that during the courses. We have a lot of different projects, but it's like on top of that, you learn also more. So, and through the student life, I also get to know many new friends, and from different fields. I have friends from the School of Arts and the School of Business. So I have really like this multidisciplinary contacts now. So, and also lifelong friends when we have been in the same lecture halls and be a bit social during there. So maybe the biggest tip from me is that be social and open-minded. Don't just stuck into your own kind of like box. So the biggest tip, like combine the lecture halls and student events into your own life. And what where did I end up? So I like to stay here. So now I'm as a doctoral researcher in hydrometallurgy research group. So I'm focusing there on the field of recycling. And that's a like long story short of my studies here in Aalto University.
Thank you very much, Jere. It is really interesting and it's uplifting to hear that you are enjoying yourself so much that you are still around as doctoral student. Our next special guest is Roshi Dahal. I will just click with to make sure that everything appears. Okay. Good.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I have to thank Marietta, Rodrigo, and Lisa for this invitation. So first in the picture, you can see me with my very recent achievement. I have defended my doctoral thesis in the Department of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering. It was very recent, last week, 20th of October. A small background, my name is Roshi Dahal. I come from Nepal originally. I have been in Finland since 2012. And I started my bachelor degree in environment engineering, not in Aalto, but it was in Helsinki Metropolia. After graduating, I joined Aalto in 2016 in a biomass refining major. I did my thesis in catalyst preparation and activity test of the catalyst. So it was a very good transition for me from biomass refining to the chemical engineering department. Finally, I ended up my doctoral degree in the chemical and metallurgical engineering. My topic focuses on this purification, like we have been talking so much during the presentations given by Marietta or Rodrigo. So it's more like purification of the oil that we get from the pyrolysis of plastic. It is not just about bio oil or other kind of purification, but we have also focused on this like purification of waste to a pure product. And during this time, I was a student representative in the doctoral committee. It was really nice experience to be in this very wide. I don't have just chemical and metallurgical, but I have a very wide range of study. So if there is anyone in this discussion thinking that if you can join the chemical and metallurgical because you have a different background, but it is still possible. As you can see from my thesis topics that I have worked with catalyst, then I have also worked with this very core thermodynamic study, as well as modeling and the separation technology. So this actually is like a very wide variety of study. So my message would be, don't even focus only in one. It is good for researcher or a student to change your field of study and a little bit go further. And maybe you can mix chemical and metallurgical also with this, like a chemical engineering as well as metallurgical in your elective. That could also be possibility. It would be a very nice combination. Talking about Finland, because I have been here very long time, it's a very nice country, very social. Like we have been just talking, it's a very environmental friendly country. I don't need to even tell that we have so much forest. Also, people are quite nice. Yes, one of the very safest place to be here. I have never faced any problem. English is like quite an official language in every places. And talking about Aalto University, it's very international. Because I come from a different background. It's a Helsinki metropolia, of course it was, but then coming to Aalto was very different. I felt like, oh wow, it's a very nice university. There are a lot of exchange students. You meet a lot of people from different departments, like Jere just mentioned that he has friends in different places. And yeah, these projects and your elective study, when you choose from different department, it allows you to broaden your knowledge as well as finding friends from the different places. So I don't know what next I should say, but welcome for those who are interested, and it actually allows you to broaden your study. And you can see from my experience that not necessarily you need to focus only one, but then you can still come to this chemical and metallurgical engineering even if you have a little bit of different background, and you can be still be very good in this part. And I have always enjoyed studying. They are not so easy. I think engineering is not easy in any field, but it allows you to improve your like basic engineering. And about there was discussion about, or talking, someone wrote like engineering is about scale up, and based on my doctoral thesis, we have allowed or like the work presents, there is possibility of scale up of the waste plastic purification. So that was a very nice message, and also this is very relatable in this talk. And those who have time, you can go and read and make your knowledge more, and I would really appreciate that. And welcome to our department if you are very interested to be here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much for those nice words. We are now running out of time. I think we have been providing a lot of information to all of you. But of course, there's more information if you want, if you're interested on it and on the Aalto web pages. Perhaps if someone has a very quick question, we can try to answer it right now. Otherwise, feel free to contact admissions at aalto.fi. If you have questions related to the admissions. But also, well, now Lisa has included the link in the chat box. And well, otherwise, you can always try and find more information about our department in the Aalto web pages. So someone is asking, is there a career fair? I think that as far as I remember, there are quite a few opportunities to learn about potential employees. There are some career fairs organized by Aalto, but one of the important things to keep in mind also is that Aalto University has a very strong tradition of cooperation with industry. Finland is not a particularly large country, so industry and university have a very strong cooperation. We know very well what are the industrial partners here or what are the industry who are the industrial representatives here in Finland. So typically there's opportunity to get to learn about the potential employees by internships, for example, or through a master's thesis as well, because this is a very strong connection we have here in Finland, and it is very unique also for Aalto because it's traditionally the university that produces the like a large number of engineers here. There's another question here. Does the university take care of the visa processing for the international students? I think we would need to forward this question to one of the study officers. But when it comes to processing the visa, I do not think that it is the university who is in charge of. After you have applied to the university, you will receive an official letter of admission on what stating at what program you have been admitted, and that is an official invitation letter that you can use to carry out your visa processing. But certainly the university does not take care of visa processing because this is very personal. This is a very personal thing for each student, depending on their countries and their own specific situations. So we are, of course, committed to providing all the information required to process the visa, but the university will not take care of that. That will be up to you.
Actually, can I add one?
Yes, please go ahead. If you have more information, that would be good. Yes, please go ahead.
So actually, yes, in the beginning, there is no connection between university and the visa, but when you come to Finland and you are working or you are doing some project with your professor and there could be like a delay a little bit in your study because of any reason, then professors are always writing that letter that student is like on track and he's doing his job, so that letter can be given to this immigration office and a visa can be easily extended. So there is no problem with that part. So
Yes.
that part after you come, it's like not so difficult. If you are in contact with professor, then they can help.
Yes, we try to be as helpful as possible, but indeed, the process itself remains the responsibility of the student. Okay. With this, then I think standard for the student CV, for example, like Europass. I don't think so, but this kind of detailed information, I would strongly recommend that you go visit the admission pages, and there you will find detailed information on this kind of requirements to submit your application. If you have specific question like this, then Lisa has also shared with you the email address of admissions@aalto.fi. That they are the right persons to answer these specific kind of questions. Okay.
I think the CV should be as simple and as clear as anything. That
Yes.
is a requirement, but I really don't have experience of this Europass. But this, based on my experience, it should be clear to the point and very simple. That should be enough.
Thanks. Okay, well, with this, I want to thank you all for joining us in this webinar. Thanks, Marjatta. Thanks, Jere. Thanks, Roshi, for joining us, for sharing your views and your feedback. And thanks to all of you who attended. I hope this has clarified what the master's program in chemical engineering, chemical and metallurgical engineering is about, and why it would be great, I think, to become a chemical or metallurgical engineer. Okay? Okay, well, with this, I once again thank you all for your attention, and well, hopefully we will be seeing you soon here in Aalto University. Okay, until next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.